The morning sun rose over the wheat fields of New Haven Colony, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Deho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through his farm, checking the crops like he did every morning. It was quiet here, peaceful, just the way he liked it after years of chaos in the military. His daughter Minji was still asleep in their small farmhouse. The 8-year-old girl would wake up soon, asking for breakfast and chattering about her dreams. Deho smiled at the thought. Life was simple now. Hard, but simple. And after losing his wife Sora 3 years ago, simple was exactly what he needed. He was checking the irrigation system near the eastern field when he heard it, a loud crash that shook the ground beneath his feet. Birds scattered from the trees, crying out in alarm. Deho's military instincts kicked, and immediately he ran toward the sound, his heart pounding. Smoke rose from beyond the hill. As Deho climbed up, he saw something that made him stop in his tracks. A spacecraft, or what was left of it, lay burning in his wheat field. The metal hull was twisted and broken, still glowing red from the heat of atmospheric entry. Deho approached carefully. The ship was small, designed for maybe 1 or 2 passengers. It had royal markings on it, symbols he did not recognize. As he walked around the wreckage, he saw a trail in the dirt. Something had crawled away from the crash. He followed the trail to the edge of his field where it met the forest. There, collapsed against a tree, was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. At first, Deho thought it might be some kind of large lizard, but as he got closer, he realized this was no animal. She was a dragon, or at least, that is what she looked like. Her body was covered in pearl-white scales that shimmered even in her weakened state. 2 silver horns curved back from her head. Her face was almost human-like, but with delicate scales running along her cheeks and forehead. She wore torn royal robes that had once been beautiful, but were now stained with blood and dirt. She was breathing, but barely. Her chest rose and fell in weak, irregular patterns. Her eyes were closed, and she looked like she had not eaten in weeks. Her scales, which had been shining, looked dull and lifeless. Deho knelt beside her. His military training had taught him basic first aid for many species. The galaxy was full of different races, and soldiers had to know how to help allies from other worlds. But he had never seen a dragon before. He checked her pulse. It was there, but weak and slow. Too slow. She was dying. Without thinking, Deho made his decision. He could not just leave her here. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, she needed help. He ran back to his house and grabbed his farm truck. He drove it as close as he could to where she lay and carefully, very carefully, lifted her into the back. She was lighter than he expected. That was not a good sign. Someone her size should have weighed much more. Deho drove back to his farm and carried her into the barn. He made a bed of clean hay and laid her down gently. Then he covered her with blankets to keep her warm. He set up a small heater nearby and brought water and medical supplies. As he worked, the dragon's eyes flickered open for just a moment. They were golden, like pieces of sun. She looked at him with confusion and fear. Then her eyes closed again, and she fell back into unconsciousness. Deho sat back and ran his hand through his hair. What had he just brought into his home? Who was she, and why had her ship crashed here? He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Minji standing in the barn doorway. Her eyes were wide as she stared at the dragon. "Papa," she whispered. "Is that a dragon?" "A real dragon." Deho nodded. "I think so. She crashed in our field. She is hurt, Minji. Very hurt." Minji walked closer, her fear replaced by curiosity. "Is she going to die?" "I do not know," Deho said honestly. "But we are going to try to help her." "What is her name?" Deho looked at the unconscious dragon. "I do not know that either." For the next few hours, Deho tried everything he could think of. He cleaned her wounds and bandaged them. He tried to give her water, but she could not swallow. He checked her vital signs every few minutes. Nothing seemed to help. He went into his house and used his computer to search the colony database. There was not much information about dragons. The database said they were called the Drakith, and they came from a powerful empire far from human space. They were proud, ancient, and rarely interacted with humans. The database also said they had very specific dietary needs. They needed certain minerals and proteins that were rare on most planets. Without the right food, a Draka could starve even with a full stomach. Deho read this and looked out the window at the barn. She was starving. That is why she looked so weak, why her scales had lost their shine. She needed proper food, and soon. But what kind of food? The database did not give specifics. Deho sat back in his chair and thought. He had been a military cook before he became a farmer. He had learned to make meals for dozens of different species. If he could figure out what she needed, maybe he could help her. He spent the rest of the day researching and experimenting. Minji helped, bringing him ingredients from the pantry and asking questions. She kept going to the barn to check on the dragon, even though Deho told her to be careful. Evening came, and the dragon still had not woken up. Deho was starting to lose hope. Maybe she was too far gone. Maybe there was nothing he could do. That night, as Deho was putting Minji to bed, his daughter asked him a question. "Papa, do you think she has a family?" Deho paused. He had not thought about that. "Probably," he said. "Do you think they miss her?" "I am sure they do." Minji was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "When Mama died, I thought I would die too. I felt so empty inside. But you took care of me. You made me food and told me stories and hugged me when I cried. Maybe the dragon lady feels empty inside too. Maybe she needs someone to take care of her." Deho looked at his daughter and felt his heart swell with love. Even at 8 years old, she understood things that many adults never learned. She understood that sometimes the greatest gift you could give someone was simply caring. He kissed her forehead. "You are right, Minji. Tomorrow, I will find a way to help her. I promise." That night, Deho went back to barn. The dragon was still unconscious, but she was breathing a little easier now. He sat beside her and spoke softly, even though he knew she could not hear him. "I do not know who you are," he said. "I do not know why you crashed here or what happened to you. But you are under my roof now, and I take care of people under my roof. My daughter taught me that tonight. So hold on, okay? Just hold on a little longer." In the darkness of the barn, surrounded by the smell of hay and earth, a single father made a promise to a dying dragon princess. He did not know it yet, but that promise would change everything. Not just for her, not just for him, but for 2 entire civilizations. Outside, the stars twinkled in the night sky. Somewhere up there in the vast darkness of space, people were looking for Princess Yuna. And when they found her, nothing would ever be the same again. Deho woke up before dawn, just like he always did. But this morning was different. This morning, he had a dying dragon in his barn and no idea how to save her. He made himself a strong cup of coffee and sat at his kitchen table with his old military tablet. The screen glowed in the darkness as he searched through medical databases, cooking archives, and alien biology reports. He had been reading all night, and his eyes were tired and red. The information about Draken nutrition was scattered and incomplete. Most sources said the same thing. Drakith needed high concentrations of minerals, especially calcium and iron. They needed specific proteins that activated their natural healing abilities. And they needed their food prepared in certain ways, or their bodies could not absorb the nutrients properly. Deho rubbed his face and thought hard. He had cooked for alien soldiers during his military service. He remembered his Antari officer, who could not eat regular food because his stomach was too sensitive. Deho had made him a special broth that broke down the proteins into smaller pieces. The officer had recovered within days. Maybe he could do something similar for the dragon. He stood up and went to his pantry. He pulled out everything he had. Bones from the local game animals he hunted. Dried seaweed from the colony market that came from New Haven's mineral-rich oceans. Root vegetables that grew in the volcanic soil near the southern settlement. Protein powder from the colony store. Herbs and spices from his garden. Deho spread everything on his kitchen counter and started planning. If he could make a broth rich enough, concentrated enough, maybe it would work. Maybe it would give her body what it needed to fight back against whatever was killing her. He started cooking as the sun rose. First, he roasted the bones in his oven until they were dark and caramelized. This would make the broth richer and release more minerals. Then he put them in his largest pot with water and let them simmer. He added the seaweed, which would release iron and other minerals as it cooked. He added the root vegetables, chopped fine, so their nutrients would seep into liquid. The kitchen filled with steam and rich smells. Minji woke up and came downstairs, rubbing her eyes. "Papa, what are you making? It smells different." "Medicine," Deho said. "Medicine for our guest." Minji climbed onto a chair and watched him work. "Will it make her better?" "I hope so, baby. I really hope so." As the broth simmered, Deho went to the barn to check on the dragon. She was still unconscious, but she looked worse than yesterday. Her breathing was more shallow. Her scales had lost even more of their shine. He did not have much time. He went back to the kitchen and worked faster. He strained the broth through a fine cloth, removing all the solid pieces. Then he put it back on the stove and added the protein powder, stirring it in slowly so it dissolved completely. He added a pinch of volcanic salt that he had bought from a trader months ago. The salt was expensive, but it was rich in rare minerals. The broth had been cooking for 6 hours when Deho finally tasted it. It was strong, almost too strong. The flavor was intense and concentrated, but it was good. It was nutrient-dense and rich. If anything could help her, this would. He poured some into a bowl and carried it carefully to the barn. His hands were shaking. He had no idea if this would work. For all he knew, this could make things worse. The dragon was exactly where he had left her. Deho knelt beside her and spoke softly. "Hey, I know you cannot hear me, but I made something for you, something that might help." He tried to get her to drink, but her jaw was clenched shut. He could not open her mouth without hurting her. Frustration built up inside him. How could he help her if he could not even get her to eat? Then he heard small footsteps behind him. Minji stood in the barn doorway, holding her favorite stuffed rabbit. "Papa, maybe she needs to wake up first." "I have been trying to wake her up. Minji, she is too weak." Minji walked closer and looked at the dragon's face. Then, without fear, she reached out and touched the dragon's hand. The scales were smooth and cool under her small fingers. "Hello, dragon lady," Minji said softly. "My name is Minji. You are at our farm. You are safe here. My papa made you food. Really good food. He is the best cook in the whole colony. But you have to wake up to eat it. Please wake up." For a long moment, nothing happened. Deho was about to tell Minji to step back when the dragon's eyes flickered open. They were dull and unfocused, but they were open. The dragon looked at Minji, then at Deho. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She tried to speak, but she was too weak. Deho moved quickly. "You need to eat. Can you sit up? Can you try?" The dragon stared at him. There was confusion in her golden eyes, and something else. Suspicion. Fear. She tried to push herself up, but failed. Her arms shook with the effort. Deho gently helped her into a sitting position, propping her up against the barn wall. She was so light, so fragile. He could feel her bones through her scales. He held the bowl of broth up to her. "This will help you. Please trust me." The dragon looked at the bowl, then at him. When she finally spoke, her voice was rough and broken. "Why?" she whispered. "Why help me?" Deho did not have a complicated answer. "Because you need help." The dragon's eyes filled with something that looked like pain. Not physical pain, but something deeper. She turned her face away. "Let me die. I have nothing left. No home. No family. No honor. Just let me die here." The words hit Deho hard. He recognized that tone. He had heard it before, in his own voice, in the months after Sora died. It was the sound of someone who had given up completely. Minji moved closer and put her small hand on the dragon's arm. "You cannot die. That would make me sad. And my papa, too. We do not even know your name yet." The dragon looked at the little girl. A single tear rolled down her scaled cheek. "Yuna," she whispered. "My name is Yuna." "That is a pretty name," Minji said, smiling. "Now you have to eat, Yuna. Please." Yuna looked at the bowl again. Deho could see the internal struggle on her face. Pride fighting against desperation. hopelessness fighting against the basic will to survive. Finally, slowly, she reached for the bowl. Her hands shook so badly that Deho had to help her hold it. She brought it to her lips and took a small sip. The moment the broth touched her tongue, Yuna's eyes went wide. She took another sip, then another. Her hands steadied as she drank. She drank slowly at first, then faster, until the entire bowl was empty. When she finished, she lowered the bowl and stared at it. Tears were streaming down her face now, running over her scales and dripping onto her torn robes. "What is this?" she asked, her voice breaking. "What did you give me?" "Just soup," Deho said. "Bone broth with some extra nutrients." "No," Yuna said, shaking her head. "No, this is not just soup. This is—" She struggled to find the words. "In my whole life, 247 years, I have never tasted anything like this. Every meal I ever ate was prepared by royal chefs following ancient recipes. Perfect technique, perfect presentation, but no heart, no care. This was made because you wanted me to live." She looked at Deho with those golden eyes, and in them, he saw something breaking and something else beginning to form. "Why?" she asked again. "You do not know me. I could be dangerous. I could be a criminal. Why would you save me?" Deho thought about his answer carefully. Then he smiled and said, "My daughter taught me something last night. She said that sometimes people feel empty inside, and they need someone to take care of them. You looked empty, so I took care of you." Yuna stared at him for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes and fresh tears came. But these tears were different. These were not tears of despair. These were tears of something she had never felt before. "Hope. More," she whispered. "Can I have more?" Deho's smile grew wider. "I made a whole pot. You can have as much as you want." As he went to get more broth, he heard Minji talking to Yuna, telling her about the farm and the chickens and the rabbits. He heard Yuna's weak laugh, a sound like silver bells. In that moment, standing in his kitchen, pouring another bowl of simple broth, Deho realized something important. He had just saved a life, not with advanced medicine or technology, but with something much simpler, with food made with care, with kindness, with humanity. He carried the second bowl back to the barn, where a dragon princess was learning what it meant to be truly cared for. And neither of them knew it yet, but this was only the beginning. 3 weeks had passed since Yuna crashed in the wheat field. Every day, she grew stronger. The dullness left her scales, and they began to shine like pearls in the sunlight. Her silver horns gleamed. She could walk now, though she still tired easily, and she could eat solid food, which Deho prepared for her 3 times a day. But more than her body was healing, something deeper was changing inside her. Yuna sat at the kitchen table, watching Deho prepare breakfast. He moved around the kitchen with easy confidence, chopping vegetables and stirring pots. Minji sat beside Yuna, drawing pictures of dragons and farms in her notebook. "Why do you cook everything yourself?" Yuna asked. "On my world, royalty never enters the kitchen. We have servants for such tasks." Deho cracked eggs into a pan. "I like cooking. It relaxes me. And besides, when you cook for someone, you put a little bit of yourself into the food. That makes it special." Yuna thought about this. In the royal palace, she had never known who cooked her meals. Food simply appeared on golden plates, prepared by invisible hands. She had never thought about the people behind it. "Teach me," she said suddenly. Deho turned around, surprised. "Teach you to cook?" "Yes, I want to learn." Minji bounced in her chair excitedly. "Oh, yes, Papa. Teach her. Then she can make me dragon cookies." Deho laughed. "All right, come here, Yuna. Let me show you how to make eggs." Yuna stood up and walked to the stove. She felt nervous. In her entire life, she had learned diplomacy, combat history, and politics, but never something as simple as cooking. Deho handed her a spatula. "It is easy. Just gently push the eggs around the pan. Not too fast, or they will burn. Not too slow, or they will stick." Yuna tried. The spatula felt strange in her hands. She pushed too hard, and eggs flew out of the pan. She gasped, embarrassed. Minji giggled. "It is okay. Papa burned toast last week. I did not burn it, Deho said with mock offense. I made it extra crispy. Yuna tried again. This time, Deho put his hand over hers, guiding her movements. The eggs began to take shape, fluffy and golden. When they were done, Deho slid them onto a plate. You did it, he said, smiling. Yuna looked at the eggs. They were not perfect. They were a little uneven and slightly overcooked on one side, but she had made them with her own hands. Pride swelled in her chest, a different kind of pride than she had ever felt before. They ate breakfast together, and Yuna savored every bite of the eggs she had made. They tasted better than any royal feast. After breakfast, Deho went out to work on the farm. Yuna followed him, wanting to help. She wore simple clothes that Deho had given her, old work pants and a cotton shirt. They were nothing like her royal robes, but they were comfortable. What can I do? She asked. Deho looked at her thoughtfully. The chickens need feeding. Can you do that? Of course, Yuna said confidently. How difficult can it be? Very difficult. As it turned out, the chickens scattered when she approached. They clucked and flapped their wings. One particularly bold rooster pecked at her feet. Yuna, who had once commanded armies and negotiated with galactic leaders, found herself defeated by farm birds. Minji came running over, laughing. You have to be gentle with them. Watch. The little girl scattered feet on the ground, and the chickens came running to her peacefully. Yuna watched in amazement. How do you do that? You just have to show them you are their friend, Minji explained. They can feel if you are scared or bossy. Be calm and nice. Yuna tried again, this time moving slowly and speaking softly to the chickens. To her surprise, it worked. The birds came closer and ate from her hand. She laughed, delighted. Deho watched from across the yard and smiled. The proud dragon princess was learning humility, one chicken at a time. That evening, they sat together on the porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Minji had fallen asleep in Yuna's lap, tired from playing all day. Yuna stroked the girl's hair gently, her clawed fingers surprisingly tender. Tell me about your world, Deho said quietly. Your real world, not the palace. You. Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then she began to speak. I was born in the royal palace of the Drakith Empire. My father is Emperor Sangwoo. My mother died when I was young. I have one brother, Taemin. He is older by 50 years. You said you are 247 years old. That seems young for a dragon. It is. I am barely an adult by Drakith standards. My brother is nearly 300. He always thought the throne should be his because he is older, but I was better at everything. Better at politics. Better at combat. Better at diplomacy. Our father favored me, and Taemin hated me for it. Deho heard the pain in her voice. What happened? He poisoned me, Yuna said flatly, at a royal banquet. The poison was slow acting. It made me weak, made it impossible for me to digest Drakith food. I did not know what was happening. I just kept getting weaker and weaker. Then he sabotaged my ship and framed me for stealing royal artifacts. He told everyone I was a traitor. When my ship crashed, I thought that was the end. I would die alone on some unknown planet, and no one would ever know the truth. But you did not die. No, Yuna said, looking at Minji's sleeping face. I found something instead. Something I never had in the palace. What was that? A family. The words hung in the air between them. Deho felt his throat tighten with emotion. In the palace, Yuna continued, everyone wanted something from me. Every smile had a purpose. Every conversation was political. Every meal was a performance. I had servants, advisors, guards, but I never had anyone who simply cared if I was happy. Not until I met you and Minji. She looked at Deho with her golden eyes. You saved my life. Not just my body, but my soul. You showed me what it means to be truly noble. It is not about crowns or power. It is about caring for others. It is about making soup for a dying stranger. It is about teaching someone to cook eggs. It is about being kind. Deho did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as noble. He was just a farmer trying to raise his daughter and get by. My wife, Sori, used to say something, he said finally. She said that the measure of a person is not what they have, but what they give. You had everything, Yuna. Power, wealth, status. But it sounds like you never got what you really needed. Love. Real, honest love. Yuna nodded. And now I have it. Here, in this small farm in the middle of nowhere. I have more here than I ever had in a palace. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear. Somewhere up in that vast darkness was Yuna's home world, her empire, her father, her treacherous brother. Eventually, they would find her. Eventually, she would have to face that world again. But not tonight. Tonight, she was just Yuna, not a princess, not a political tool, just a person learning to feed chickens and cook eggs and laugh at simple things. Minji stirred in her sleep and mumbled something about dragon cookies. Yuna smiled and held her closer. The next morning, everything changed. They were having breakfast when they heard vehicles approaching. Daeho looked out the window and saw 3 official colony trucks coming up the road. His stomach dropped. Governor Yunji stepped out of the first truck, along with several colony security officers. Behind them was someone else, a human man in expensive clothes. He looked like a merchant, the kind who traveled between worlds buying and selling goods. Daeho went outside to meet them. Yuna stayed inside with Minji, watching through the window. Daeho, Governor Yunji said. Her face was serious. We need to talk. This is Hyun. He is a merchant who just arrived from the inner systems. He brought some troubling news. Hyun stepped forward. He looked at the farmhouse, then at Daeho. I am looking for someone. A Drakith fugitive. Princess Yuna of the Drakith Empire. She is wanted for treason and theft. There is a large reward for information about her whereabouts. Daeho's blood ran cold. He kept his face neutral. Why are you telling me this? Because, Hyun said slowly, I saw smoke from a crash site near your farm 3 weeks ago. And I saw tracks. Dragon tracks. Leading to your barn. Inside the house, Yuna's hands clenched into fists. She had known this moment would come. She had just hoped for more time. Governor Yunji looked at Daeho. Is there a Drakith here, Daeho? If there is, we need to know. This is serious. The Drakith Empire is searching for her. They have ships in nearby systems. Daeho thought about lying, but he had never been good at it. And these people were his neighbors, his friends. Yes, he said quietly. She is here, but she is not a criminal. She was poisoned and framed by her brother. She is innocent. Hyun's eyes gleamed with greed. That is not for you to decide. The Drakith Empire wants her back, and I intend to collect a reward for reporting her location. Everything Yuna had feared was coming true. Her past had caught up with her. And now, the family she had found, the peace she had discovered, was about to be torn away. Yuna walked out of the farmhouse, slowly. Her head was held high, her shoulders back. Even in simple farm clothes, she looked like royalty. Every eye turned to her as she stepped into the morning sunlight. I am Princess Yuna of the Drakith Empire, she said clearly, and I will not hide anymore. Hyun's face broke into a greedy smile. Then you admit it. You are the fugitive. I am no fugitive, Yuna said coldly. I am the victim of my brother's treachery. He poisoned me. He sabotaged my ship. He lied to our father and to the Empire, and now he hunts me to cover his crimes. That is a good story, Hyun said, shaking his head. But the official reports say otherwise. Prince Taemin has provided evidence, documents, witnesses. You are wanted for treason. Governor Yunji looked between Hyun and Yuna, her face troubled. This is a serious situation. If the Drakith Empire wants her back, we may have no choice but to comply. We are just a small colony. We cannot afford to anger such a powerful empire. Then hand me over, Yuna said. Her voice was steady, but Daeho could see the fear in her eyes. I will not let this colony suffer because of me. I will not let Daeho and Minji be punished for showing me kindness. No, Daeho said firmly. He stepped forward and stood beside Yuna. We are not handing her over without a proper investigation. She deserves a fair hearing, not a one-way trip to people who want her dead. Hyun laughed. You are just a farmer. What can you do against an empire? I am a citizen of this colony, Daeho said, and this colony has laws. We do not hand people over without due process. Right, Governor? Yunji rubbed her temples. She looked tired. Technically, you are correct, but Daeho, be realistic. If the Drakith Empire sends ships here demanding her return, what can we do? We have no military, no defenses. Then we buy time, Daeho said. We demand proof of her crimes. We ask for a formal trial. We make them show us evidence. That could take weeks, Yunji said. Good. That gives us weeks to find the truth. Hyun's smile faded. You are making a mistake, farmer. The Empire will not be patient. They will come, and they will take her, and anyone who protected her will pay the price. Before anyone could respond, Minji ran out of the house. She threw her arms around Yuna's waist. You cannot take her. She is my friend. She lives here now. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. She put her hand on Minji's head gently. Sweet child, you have given me so much, but I cannot let you be hurt because of me. I do not care, Minji said stubbornly. You are family. Family protects each other. The words hit everyone like a thunderbolt. Family. This little human girl had claimed the dragon princess as family. Yunji looked at the scene before her. She saw Minji's fierce loyalty. She saw Daeho's determination. She saw Yuna's tears. And she saw something else. She saw the truth in Yuna's face. All right, Yunji said finally. Here is what we will do. Hyun, you can report to the Drakith Empire that we have located Princess Yuna. But tell them we require formal proof of the charges against her before we will release her. Tell them we demand a proper legal process. They will not accept that. Hyun protested. Then they will have to come here and explain why. Yunji said. Her voice was firm now. I am the governor of this colony, and I will not hand over anyone without proper evidence. Not even for a powerful empire. We may be small, but we have our dignity. Hyun looked angry, but he nodded. Fine, but this will not end well for any of you. He turned and walked back to his vehicle. After he left, Yunji turned to Yuna. You have maybe a week, perhaps two before Drakith ships arrive. Use that time wisely. If you can find proof of your innocence, bring it to me. Otherwise, I may have no choice but to comply with their demands. I understand, Yuna said. Thank you for giving me this chance. Yunji and her officers left. Daeho, Yuna, and Minji stood alone in the yard. We need to find evidence, Daeho said. Evidence that proves your brother is lying. How? Yuna asked. My ship was destroyed in the crash. Any data I had is gone. Not all of it, Daeho said. I pulled some components from the wreckage, including what looked like a data storage unit. I thought it might be important, so I saved it. Yuna's eyes went wide. The black box? You saved the black box. I do not know what it is called, but I have it in my workshop. They rushed to the small workshop behind the barn. Daeho pulled out a damaged metal box, scorched and dented but still intact. Yuna took it with shaking hands. This contains the ship's flight recordings. Everything that happened before the crash. If we can access it, we can prove that my ship was sabotaged. Can you open it? Daeho asked. I need tools, specific tools, and a way to decode the data. Daeho thought hard. The colony has a tech center. They repair ships and equipment. Maybe they can help. They took the black box to the colony tech center. The chief technician, a young woman named Bora, examined it carefully. This is Drakith technology, she said. Very advanced, very encrypted. It will take time to crack open without destroying the data inside. How much time? Yuna asked. 3 days, maybe 4. I will need to be very careful. We have a week at most, Daeho said. Please do whatever you can. Bora nodded. I will work on it day and night, but I cannot promise anything. They left the black box with Bora and returned to the farm. The next few days were tense. Yuna could not sleep. She kept expecting Dracus ships to appear in the sky at any moment. Deho tried to keep things normal, cooking meals and working the farm. Minji stayed close to Yuna, as if afraid the dragon would disappear if she looked away. On the third day, something unexpected happened. A message came through the colony's communication system. It was from a Dracus ship in orbit around New Haven. Commander Jaiwan had arrived. Governor Yunji called Deho and Yuna to the colony administration building. When they arrived, they saw a Dracath officer on the video screen. She was tall and imposing, with dark green scales and golden eyes. She wore military armor marked with high rank. "I am Commander Jaiwan of the Imperial Guard," she said. "I have come to retrieve Princess Yuna and return her to face justice." Yuna stepped forward, her face pale but determined. "Commander, I did not expect to see you." Jaiwan's expression was hard. "Princess, you are accused of serious crimes. Treason, theft of royal artifacts, betrayal of your family and empire. Do you deny these charges?" "I deny them completely," Yuna said. "I was framed by my brother Tamine. He poisoned me and sabotaged my ship. Everything he has told my father is a lie." "Then why did you run? Why did you hide?" Jaiwan asked. "I did not run. I crashed here, nearly dead from poison and starvation. I had no choice." Jaiwan was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I have orders to bring you back. Whether you come willingly or by force is your choice." "We have requested proper legal proceedings," Yunji interjected. "We need to see evidence of these crimes before we release her." "The evidence has been provided to your emperor," Yuna said. "Documents that are forged, witnesses who are paid liars. My brother has covered his tracks well." Jaiwan's face flickered with something. Doubt? Uncertainty? These are serious accusations against a prince of the Empire. "I know," Yuna said, "but they are true. Commander, you served in my guard for 10 years. You know me. Do you truly believe I would betray my own people?" Jaiwan did not answer immediately. Finally, she said, "What I believe does not matter. I have my orders." "Then at least give us 3 more days," Deho said. "We are recovering data from her ship's black box. It will prove she is telling the truth." Jaiwan looked at Deho for the first time. "Who are you?" "I am the man who saved her life when she crashed here. I am the man who fed her and cared for her. And I am the man who will not let her be taken without proof of her crimes." "A human," Jaiwan said, almost to herself. "A human is defending a Dracath princess." "Yes," Deho said simply, "because it is the right thing to do." Jaiwan studied him through the screen. Then she looked at Yuna again. The princess stood beside this human farmer with her head high, unafraid. This was not the behavior of a guilty criminal. 3 days, Jaiwan said finally. "You have 3 days to provide your evidence. After that, I will take Princess Yuna back to the Empire, with or without your cooperation." The screen went dark. Yuna turned to Deho. "She gave us time. That means she has doubts. Jaiwan is loyal to my father, but she is also fair. If we can show her the truth, she might listen." "Then we better hope Bora can crack that black box in time," Deho said. They returned to the farm. That night, they barely slept. The next morning, Bora called them. Her voice was excited. "I got it open, and you need to see this right now." Deho, Yuna, and Governor Yunji gathered in the tech center. Bora had the black box connected to several screens. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as data scrolled past. "The encryption was incredibly complex," Bora explained. "But I managed to recover the flight recordings from the last week before the crash. And what I found is disturbing." She pressed a button, and a video appeared on the main screen. It showed the interior of Yuna's ship. The timestamp indicated it was from 3 weeks ago, just before she left the Dracath homeworld. In the video, Yuna sat in the pilot's chair, reviewing documents. She looked healthy then, her scales bright and shining. The door to the ship opened, and someone entered. "Prince Tamine, brother," Yuna said in the video, looking up with a smile. "I did not expect to see you before my departure. I wanted to wish you well on your diplomatic mission," Tamine said. His voice was smooth, friendly. I brought you a gift, a traditional meal for your journey. He handed her an ornate box. Yuna opened it and smiled. Thank you, brother. This is very kind. The video continued. After Tamin left, Yuna ate the meal. Within an hour, she began to look sick. Her movements became sluggish. Her scales started to dull. The poison, Yuna whispered, watching herself on screen. That was when he poisoned me. Bora fast-forwarded through several days. The video showed Yuna getting weaker and weaker. She tried to eat regular ship rations, but her body rejected them. She grew thin and fragile. Then, 3 days before the crash, the video showed something else. The ship's systems began to malfunction. Lights flickered. Warning alarms sounded. Yuna tried desperately to fix the problems, but she was too weak. Bora switched to another file. This is the maintenance log. Watch this. The log showed remote access from outside the ship. Someone had hacked into the ship's systems and disabled the stabilizers, damaged the navigation, and corrupted the emergency beacon. The access codes were traced back to a source inside the royal palace. Tamin, Yuna said, her voice shaking with anger. He sabotaged my ship remotely. He made sure I would crash and die. There is more, Bora said. She pulled up another file. These are communication records. Messages between Prince Tamin and several court officials. They were planning this for months. The messages were clear. Tamin had paid officials to create false documents showing Yuna had stolen royal artifacts. He had bribed witnesses to testify against her. He had built an entire conspiracy to frame his sister and take the throne. Governor Yunji stared at the screens in shock. This is proof, absolute proof that she is innocent. We need to show this to Commander Jaiwan, Deho said. Right now? They contacted the Drakis ship immediately. When Jaiwan's face appeared on screen, Yuna spoke first. Commander, we have recovered the data from my ship. I am sending it to you now. Everything you need to see is there. Jaiwan watched in silence as the files transferred. They could see her face change as she reviewed the evidence. Shock, anger, disgust. When she finished, she looked directly at Yuna. Princess, I owe you an apology. I should have questioned the charges from the beginning. I have served you for 10 years. I should have known you would never betray the Empire. You were following orders, Yuna said. I do not blame you. This evidence must reach Emperor Sengwu immediately, Jaiwan said. But there is a problem. Prince Tamin has many allies at court. If I send this through normal channels, it might be intercepted or destroyed. I need to deliver it personally. How long will that take? Yunji asked. 3 days to reach the capital. But I cannot leave you unprotected here. If Tamin learns that we have this evidence, he might send assassins. Then we need to move quickly, Deho said. Jaiwan nodded. I will take a fast courier ship and bring this evidence to the Emperor myself. Princess Yuna, I need you to stay hidden until I return. Do not contact anyone from the Empire. Do not reveal your location. I understand, Yuna said. And human, Jaiwan said, looking at Deho. Thank you. You saved more than just her life. You may have saved the entire empire from a corrupt ruler. The communication ended. Everyone felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. The truth was out, but the danger was not over yet. They returned to the farm. That evening, Yuna stood on the porch, watching the sunset. Deho joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. How do you feel? He asked. Strange, Yuna said. For weeks, I have been afraid. Afraid of being found. Afraid of dying. Afraid of never clearing my name. And now that the truth is revealed, I feel empty. What happens next? Do I just return to my old life? Is that what you want? Deho asked. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. No, I do not want to go back to that cold palace, to those political games, to meals prepared by strangers and conversations filled with lies. I found something here that I never had there. What is that? Peace, happiness, a real family. She turned to look at him. Deho, you and Minji gave me something no one else ever did. You cared about me not because I was a princess, but because I was a person who needed help. You taught me what it means to truly live, not just exist. Deho smiled. You taught us something too. You taught Minji about courage and strength. You taught me that it is never too late to open your heart to someone new. After Sora died, I thought my life was over. I thought all I could do was survive and raise my daughter. But you showed me that life still has surprises. Good surprises. Minji came running out, interrupting their moment. Yuna, come help me with the chickens. They like you better than me now. Yuna laughed, a sound like music. I am coming, little one. As she walked away with Minji, Deho felt his heart swell. Somewhere along the way, this dragon princess had become part of their family, and he could not imagine life without her now. 3 days passed. They were peaceful days. Yuna helped on the farm, learning more about cooking and growing vegetables. She played with Minji, telling her stories about distant worlds and strange creatures. She laughed more in those 3 days than she had in her entire life. On the 4th morning, a message came. Commander Jaiwan had reached the capital and shown the evidence to Emperor Sengwu. An hour later, a larger ship arrived at New Haven. This one was decorated with imperial symbols. When the landing ramp lowered, Emperor Sengwu himself stepped out. He was ancient and powerful, with scales the color of midnight and horns that curved like a crown. But as he walked toward the farm, his steps were heavy with shame and sorrow. Yuna met him in the yard. She did not bow. She stood straight and proud, with Deho and Minji beside her. Father, she said simply. My daughter, Sangwoo said. His voice was thick with emotion. I have failed you in every way. I believe lies. I allowed your brother to poison you and frame you. I sent hunters after you. And worst of all, I never saw how unhappy you were in the palace. I gave you a crown, but never a home. Can you ever forgive me? Yuna looked at her father. She saw the genuine remorse in his eyes. Taemin has been arrested? Yes, he and all his conspirators. They will face justice for their crimes. And what do you want from me now? Yuna asked. I want you to come home, Sangwoo said. The Empire needs you. I need you. You are the rightful heir to the throne. Yuna shook her head. No, father. I do not want the throne anymore. I do not want to rule an empire or play political games. I found something better here. Sangwoo looked confused. Better than being empress? What could possibly be better? Happiness, Yuna said simply. She took Minji's hand. This little girl taught me how to feed chickens. This man taught me how to cook. They taught me how to laugh and cry and be myself. They gave me a family. That is worth more than any throne. Sangwoo looked at Deho, really looked at him for the first time. He saw a simple human farmer who had saved his daughter's life, who had given her food and shelter and love when she had nothing. You did this? Sangwoo asked. You saved her. I just made soup, Deho said humbly. You made soup, Sangwoo repeated, amazed. A human made soup and changed the fate of an empire. He turned back to Yuna. If you do not want the throne, what do you want? Yuna thought carefully. I want to be an ambassador. I want to build bridges between our people and humans. I want young Dracket to come here and learn what I learned. That power is not the most important thing. That kindness matters. That family is not just blood. Sangwoo was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly he smiled. When did my daughter become so wise? When she learned to make eggs, Minji said seriously. Everyone laughed. Even the ancient dragon emperor laughed, tears streaming down his scale face. A year later, Yuna stood in Deho's kitchen, teaching a group of young Dracket nobles how to cook. The cultural exchange program was a huge success. Dozens of Dracket visited New Haven every month, learning about human agriculture, cooking, and community. Emperor Sangwoo visited often. He had developed a taste for Deho's cooking and claimed it was the best in the galaxy. He had officially adopted Minji as his honorary granddaughter, which made her a Dracket princess in all but blood. Taemin had been sentenced to life imprisonment. The Empire was healing from his betrayal, and relations with humanity had never been better. That evening, they all sat around Deho's table for dinner. Emperor Sangwoo Commander Jaiwin, Governor Yunji, and several young Drakis students. The table was crowded and loud with conversation and laughter. Yuna raised her glass. I want to make a toast to Deho, who taught a starving dragon princess that the greatest power in the universe is not strength or wealth. It is compassion. It is caring for others. It is making soup for someone who needs it. Everyone raised their glasses. Deho blushed and tried to protest, but Minji climbed into his lap and hugged him. You are a hero, Papa, she said. The best hero. As they ate and talked and laughed together, Yuna looked around the table and felt complete. She had lost a throne, but gained a family. She had lost power, but gained happiness. And she had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the most extraordinary things come from the simplest acts of kindness, like a single father making soup for a dying stranger. That one act had changed everything. It had exposed corruption, prevented a war, and brought two civilizations together, all because someone cared enough to cook a meal. Outside, the stars shone bright over New Haven, and in a small farmhouse, a family that crossed the boundaries of species and worlds sat together, bound not by blood or duty, but by love. That was worth more than any empire.